It's time now for a look at the latest in local news. In the news, the murder trial continues today at the Wayne County Courthouse as three defendants are on trial for the shooting death of 17-year-old Scriven resident Melvin Lester Dennison, who was shot and killed on Fender Road in Wayne County back on December 15th of 2020. Three defendants are charged with felony murder, aggravated assault, and attempting to violate the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. They are Tyler James Wooten of Jessup and two residents of Brunswick, Georgia, Christopher McCormick and Arian Maxwell. A fourth defendant has accepted a plea deal in this case. Her name is Shayla Elise Britton of Jessup, now 22 years of age. She was Tuesday's star witness for the state, coming to court from prison where she's in custody, as her plea for aggravated assault is 20 years served 12. But after her testimony for the state this week, if she testifies truthfully, Judge Lane can resentence her, and she's hoping for a reduced sentence after the trial ends. She admitted on the stand yesterday that she knows that there's still a good possibility that she'll still serve the 12 years for her guilty verdict. But her attorney was in court as well. She's represented by attorney Jonathan Lockwood. Again, for her cooperation in the case this week for the state, she's hopeful for a reduced sentence. She has a young child. Defendant Tyler James Wooten is the father of that child. Britton stated in court that she and Tyler remain friends, and the young child stays with Tyler's mother. Shayla and Tyler were friends when this all began. They were friends with the two defendants from Brunswick, Georgia. They would go to Brunswick occasionally pick up drugs and come back and sell the drugs to their friends in Jessup, then take the money back to Brunswick, Georgia. This case centers around a drug transaction on December 14th of 2020 between Shayla Britton and the victim in this case, Lester Dennison. It took place at the restaurant that was next to McDonald's at the time. Shayla testified that Lester wanted Xanax. She went to Brunswick, Georgia, picked up the drugs. She and Tyler came back to Jessup and met Lester at that restaurant, sold him the Xanax for $40. Shayla says Tyler was asleep, so she sold the drugs and put the $40 in the console in the car until the next day when she took the money down to Brunswick, Georgia to Arian Maxwell. Maxwell looks at the money and realizes it's two fake $20 bills and tells Shayla that he's upset and she needs to make this right. Shayla testifies that she texts Lester and says, WTF, you gave us fake money. Shayla, Tyler, and others do their best to get Lester and set up a meeting between Lester and the guys from Brunswick, Georgia, and Tyler to settle the issue. The understanding is that it'll be a fight between Lester and Shayla's boyfriend, Tyler James Wooten. Meeting is set for December 15th at Fender Road. Lester and his group of friends show up, as does Shayla, Tyler, and the two men from Brunswick, Arian Maxwell and Christopher McCormick. Shayla testifies that the fight does take place between her boyfriend, Tyler Wooten, and the victim, Lester Dennison. Shayla says Lester is a good friend of hers, but Tyler really doesn't know him. The fight goes in favor of Tyler, but after they fight, Shayla says the two men get up and shake hands, have a little hug, and she thinks it's all over. But moments later, a second fight begins between a friend of Lester and one of the men from Brunswick, Georgia. Tyler Wooten comes back to the car where Shayla is sitting in, driving, and tells Shayla not to freak out. But those friends of Lester and Lester have guns on them. He gets in the car, the passenger seat by Shayla. The two men from Brunswick begin backing up towards the car, get in the car. Shayla begins to drive off and hears gunshots fired from the back seat behind her, and she takes off. When they get to their destination, she says Christopher McCormick says he unloaded his gun, and she and Tyler ask him, what in the heck did you do that for? To which McCormick says they need to be taught a lesson. Shayla testifies that they drove the two men back to Brunswick, Georgia, and she and Tyler came back to Tyler's father's home, not knowing that anyone had been shot. Next morning, they learned that Lester had been shot and killed, and both she and Tyler head to Tyler's attorney's office, Adrian Browning, who tells Shayla that she cannot represent both, but tells her not to talk with any law enforcement officer without an attorney present. Shayla does not take that advice. She contacts the GBI, talks with Agent Kelly, and arrests are made, and all four arrested and charged in the shooting death of Lester Dennison. Shayla has accepted the plea agreement. Again, she's serving 20 years served, 12 in prison on an aggravated assault conviction. With her cooperation this week, she'll receive a lighter sentence. Testimony continues today. In court yesterday, a medical examiner testified on the cause of death. Again, Lester Dennison was shot once in the back. Law enforcement testified that they found 8 shell casings on Fender Road that evening. Several of Lester's friends testified. They all said that everyone involved felt it was just going to be a fight between Tyler and Lester, nothing more than that. But again, the evening ends with gunfire and a 17-year-old shot and killed. State says all defendants are parties to the crime and therefore they're all guilty. Defense says the state has the burden of proof and will not be able to reach that hurdle without a murder weapon or without any drugs seized. The jury of 7 men and 5 women have the final say when they reach a verdict in this case, which is expected to last several more days. All the defendants have separate attorneys. The question remains, will any or all testify in their own defense? It's expected that Tyler Wooten will testify. His attorney, Adrian Browning, has stated in opening arguments that he is innocent, that he never had any gun and never killed anyone. Once again, all this is over 2 Xanax pills and 2 fake $20 bills. Once again, 17-year-old Lester Dennison is shot and killed. 4 defendants charged with murder this week, 3 on trial. The 4th has pled guilty to aggravated assault, currently serving a sentence of 20 years, served 12. And WIFO-FM will continue to update the proceedings at the courthouse. Judging the case is Roger Lane. The assistant DA, Clifton Woody, is prosecuting the case. Jason Nix represents Arian Maxwell, and attorney Gregory Sasser represents Christopher McCormick. We'll be back with more news after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Jessup City Commissioners met Tuesday. They approved their TIA resolution for the South Macon Street project by a vote of 4-2, as the Commissioners Ray Haas and Tim Caulfield voted against it. Bill Harvey voted yes, but said he wanted assurances the city would be able to control the traffic flow and make sure they stop people speeding on the road. Once again, the vote 4-2 was a lengthy discussion. It was stressed that the city did not pass the resolution, that the state money would simply go somewhere else. Again, the resolution passed by a vote of 4-2. The city filled some more of their board appointments and approved their October financial statement, approved the LAMIG list for the year 2023, and heard from their new DDA Tourism and Recreational Coordinator, Hallie Gillespie. And that's a look at your Tuesday City Council meeting. Democratic candidate U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock and the Democratic Party have filed a lawsuit Tuesday that seeks to reverse the state's prohibition of early Saturday voting before the runoff. And the Saturday will be the Saturday after Thanksgiving, the state holiday formerly known as Robert E. Lee's birthday. The suit's urging a judge to declare that Saturday voting to be allowed in the runoff for this U.S. Senate seat, contrary to Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's assertion that state law bans it during the 2 days after a holiday. Warnock says it's not only wrong, but it's a misinterpretation of the law. He says it means workers who push a clock may not be able to make it to the polls. Walker's campaign has not made any comment about the early voting process. Raffensperger says Warnock should not be pressuring and confusing county election workers as they're preparing for this runoff. Under Georgia's voting law passed last year, runoffs are now held 4 weeks after the general election. In previous years, runoffs were held 9 weeks after the initial election, as in 2020 when Democrats Warnock and John Ossoff won their Senate seats. 5 weekdays of early voting is required across the state of Georgia before the runoff, less than the 17 days of early voting mandated before general and primary elections. For decades until late 2015, Georgia had a state holiday on the day after Thanksgiving, memorializing Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general during the Civil War. Governor Nathan Deal changed the day's name to a more neutral title, simply calling it state holiday, which is still observed on the same day on the calendar in the state of Georgia. Secretary of State's office said the timing of both the state holiday and Thanksgiving prevents early voting on the following Saturday. Once again, the issue headed to court. The suit filed Tuesday in Atlanta. Currently, the early voting will take place beginning November 28th and run up until December the 2nd. The time will be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be no Saturday voting as of now. Limited early voting in this runoff. Election date, once again, Tuesday, December 6th. Polls open that day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We'll be back with some final news notes after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes and news. Again, holidays quickly approaching. A lot of activities in Jessup and Wayne County to celebrate the holidays. One taking place this Sunday evening at Calvary Baptist Church at 6 p.m. The annual Thanksgiving Community Service is the 23rd annual event. Guest speakers for this year's event will be Reverend Pete Boyd of Calvary Baptist Church and Reverend Calvin Anderson of Unity Church of God. Both those gentlemen will join us tomorrow morning on the local Butch and Bob Show to talk more about the community work service. Again, the community choir is going to provide the music. It's always a packed house. Again, it's a great way to kick off the holiday season. Everyone is invited to attend this event. Again, it takes place this Sunday evening, 6 p.m. at Calvary Baptist Church. Also on Thursday and Friday, December 1st and 2nd, the annual live nativity put on by members of the Altamont Baptist Church. Once again, it'll take place at the JC Fairgrounds, but this year they're going back to the walkthrough event. Times will be from 6 to 8 p.m. that evening, and the dates Thursday and Friday, December 1st and 2nd. If you need more information before then, call 912-586-6780. Jessup DDA hosting the annual lighting of the tree Thursday, December 1st at the Pocket Park. The time 6 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. Entertainment will be performed by the Jessup Church of God Kids Choir, also the kids from Jessup Elementary, Martha Ross Smith Elementary. Santa will be on hand at Cafe Euro that evening from 7 to 9 p.m. All that taking place on December the 1st. Then on Saturday, December 3rd, the annual Chamber of Commerce Christmas Parade set for 7 p.m. that evening in downtown Jessup. There's still time to get entry into the parade. Deadline is Monday, November 28th. Stop by or call the Chamber at 427-2028. and just some of the big events taking place to celebrate the holidays. And a reminder, tomorrow on the Butch and Bob Show, we'll have both Calvin Anderson and Pete Boyd in to talk about the community worship service, Thanksgiving service set for 6 p.m. at Calvary Baptist Church. That's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan, have a great day.